Welcome back, everybody, man. It is post rookie minicamp. Let me zoom out a little bit. We're way too far zoomed in. I gotta say something, man. I kept calling this rookie OTAs for some reason, and I looked at it today, and I'm like, wait a minute, rookie OTAs. Like I never, I've never like heard of it being called rookie OTAs before. I'm like, is this a new thing? So yeah, it's rookie minicamp. I just throw that out there. Okay. So I had to change some things, but I ended up like titling a lot of my stuff like completely wrong. I was like, what is rookie OTAs? we have something new this year. I just acknowledged that. No, it's not. It's rookie minicamp. I just called it rookie OTAs for some reason. Not sure how that happened, but I guess it's not that important. It doesn't matter. But today something is important. The Lions announced some roster moves. Every team around the league has been kind of doing this, announcing little roster moves here and there. We got a lot of these players coming in for a tryout, and they announced some roster moves, like kind of the first wave getting things done. And 3 players the Lions had in officially signed with the Lions, and 1 player that was an undrafted free agent signing by the Lions has been waived after rookie minicamp. He has been waived by the Lions, and his name was fairly surprising to see that was the player. Now, there was a ton of competition in this room, so there's that as well. And the Lions also brought in 2 players at that position from undrafted free agency, as well as bringing another competition as well. So there's a lot of guys at this positional group. But we're today going to talk about those names and those moves that the Lions have announced. And depending on how much time we have when we get through that, we may do something else as well. Remember, the Wednesday show is going to be a little bit later, probably, because we're going to be reacting to the schedule release. We're going to go through that, kind of walk through it game by game. First initial impressions, reactions, win-loss prediction, all of that stuff. So with that being said, let's get right into it. Let's talk about these 3 players. Now, one of them we have talked about, we've talked about a few times, and that is the undrafted free agent rookie that the Lions ended up signing here. But we're going to save him for last because we've already discussed him. I want to talk about these veterans because the Lions had a nice group of veterans that came in. They had a nice group of veterans that came in to work out and try out within this group. And when you go through the names that got signed, Lions kept some interesting pieces, but really 2 guys. It was 2 guys, but they kept some interesting pieces. And I want to start off with the second one first. And we're going to go here. We're going to go to Rayquan Williams. Now, Michigan State fans may know who this guy is. They may know Raequan from his Michigan State days, but that's the first player that we have here, the Lions signed. This is an interior defensive lineman out of Carolina. Interior defensive lineman, not out of Carolina, but who was last with the Carolina Panthers. Last time we really saw him on the field, you'll see him as number 92 here. He's kind of got an awkward build to him, right? He's got good size, 6'4", 300 pounds, but he played a little bit like on the interior as a defensive tackle, but he also aligned as a defensive end as well, like kind of like a 3-4 defensive end, I guess. So he kind of moved up and down the line of scrimmage. There's flexibility to do that. He had that flexibility back in college as well. He tested horrifically coming out for the draft. Like there was not much good there to really buy into outside of the size. And even that, he's a little bit weird because he's very leggy, like he's very long legged, and he's not, he's kind of got a weird posture to him when you watch him as a run defender. He plays a little bit tall, plays a little bit upright, kind of gets pushed around a little bit at times. He's got like some slither capabilities, but he doesn't feel that slippery. He just didn't test out. Well, none of his scores were good there. A 7.7 3-cone drill, 25.5-inch vertical is pretty awful. 1.78 10-yard split, which I guess is okay. 17 bench press reps for a defensive lineman. Like none of this was great. None of this was great, except for the arm length, 33.5 inches. And I actually do think when you watch him, I think you see a pretty long defensive lineman that adds that flexibility. And the Lions typically do value those kind of pieces. But even when you're watching him, you're just going back to the last time we got to see him play. You ask yourself, like, how is this going to work? How is this going to work in the Lions defense? Right now, we know we have a lot of injuries, so a guy that can play inside, outside is valuable. And we've already brought in pieces like this. I think Miles Adams, when I think about the style that can play at defensive tackle, get after the quarterback a little bit as a pass rusher from the interior, but specifically, you can feel pretty comfortable with him at defensive end. Obviously, with Wingo as well is kind of an interior piece, but he's undersized, so I think he's a little bit better as like a big defensive end. So we've had guys like this that have fit into this category, so it's not too off the wall that they would have went this direction. But when you watch him, I think that I always like to look back at when they played against us, and you have to go back to 2023, and it was a surprising cut. A lot of Panthers fans, when he ultimately got cut coming off that preseason, which was really strong, they had ended up moving off of an interior defensive lineman before they ended up cutting Rayquan Williams, which had a lot of people believing like, oh, okay, they're not going to cut Rayquan. And then they cut Rayquan after the 3rd preseason game. It surprised a lot of people there. But he still he's not an old interior defensive lineman, right? He's 29, he's 28 years old at this point. But he put together this strong preseason performance, and this is the last time that we've seen him was 2023 preseason in the NFL outside of practices. And I think the game that he played against the Lions, it had to draw some eyes. It had to bring some attention. The game that he was able to put on the field against the Lions, and so I'm going to show some plays from that. But there's a few things that stand out here when you watch him. There's a few things. First off, in terms of the get off, there's nothing that's really stands out here in terms of like explosion or a lot of twitch or a lot of suddenness to his game. You don't feel a lot of that when you watch him. You just don't feel a lot of those like sudden movements. It kind of shows up as a rusher as well. But what I always liked about him is he played with really consistent timing off the ball, very consistent timing off the ball. I thought he was accurate within his footwork off the ball as well. You see the positioning, the way that he kind of settles himself in as a pass rusher and a run defender. And if you watch his footwork, it's very consistent and accurate, so it makes him play a little bit faster off the ball. He's got a little bit of kind of the bend to his game where like he can settle himself down and handle blocks, and it shows up from like a defensive end spot, like on single blocks where you can put him on like a tackle or a guard, and he can kind of hold his ground, kind of lock out a little bit. You can see him deal with some of those single blocks. Double teams felt like they were a disaster, and that was also a problem in college as well. But when it just comes from the ability to get off the ball, there's a little bit there because of the timing, because of the consistency, because the length that gets thrown into it. And one thing that's been a common thread with the Lions with defensive linemen this year for me has been loose hips and these guys that can really unlock power. And I feel like with Rayquan, he's a great example of that, right? You see it. He's not like Ahmed, where he's really trunky in the lower body. You're like, man, he's massive. You can understand why he's moving dudes around. He's a little bit different, right? He's a little bit, high hipped, high cut. But when you watch him, you see some of the looseness there. He can really open it up or create some real force. He creates momentum as a bull rusher. He can get downhill force because of that. It opens up a little bit as a pass rusher as well. But then you're also going to, again, see that sink where you could deal with those single blocks. And I always look for that for a guy that could play kind of that big D end role. Think of the John Kaminsky's. Think of what Pascal can do as well. Think of Mekhi Wingo. These guys that can kick out Levi Onwuzurike, guys that can kick out, play a little bit wider, and they feel pretty comfortable. And the reason I bring that up so much is because I think on the interior, you're much more exposed consistently to dealing with double teams, dealing with these seal blocks where he was pretty rough. Like, it just didn't look great. One, he doesn't shed blocks incredibly quickly, but number two, that his anchor and his base just was not natural. He wasn't going to settle himself down and hold the ground consistently. Now, maybe that's gotten better, and I'm sure, hey, that's what these tryouts are for, to see what that looks like. But for a guy to go through tryouts like this, where it's not that much like hands-on, and athletically he's not that outstanding, right? Even just from his testing alone, it says a lot about what he probably showcased that he was capable of. And I think it's just the consistency that he played with. You saw his ability to get upfield, win single gaps, and then you get to some of the power in his game. And while I didn't feel like he was overly forceful, I did feel like his upper body showed some power. I felt there was some real chest power to his game, where when he got his hands locked inside, there was a jolting punch that he created. Again, he created momentum. He was loose. He could open it up. He created some leverage when he was working downhill into those single blocks, and that opened up some of the bull rush opportunities as well. And look, it's not like I thought his hand usage was great, or he was the most agile interior defensive lineman, right, to kind of open up an edge consistently, but he could get upfield on guys. You did see some success to kind of getting upfield a little bit, and he's got a couple of different hand usage movements that he did this back in college as well. I have to watch more of Rayquan Williams to see how much more diversity there actually is here. But he's got like kind of an arm over move, and he's got a bull rush, and those two things give him occasional nice wins. Not consistently getting edge, but it's occasionally nice. And the positive for that, again, if you're playing a little bit further away from the ball than consistently like outside shade of a guard, so you're working on a tackle more often, that kind of pass rush win style, especially a guy that can unlock, trying to create some downhill force, that kind of style translates pretty well to that role specifically. So for me, like, even though he kind of has the build to showcase some slither and be a little bit flexible, I didn't think he always showed that, but I really like the timing within his game. Everything felt really good, really well timed. It felt like he was playing a lot faster than maybe he was. He showed some of that pressing power. He's got the long arms, and you're going to even see right here where he kind of shoots it out, and then he uses that club move, and then he gets upfield. He's got a little variety of ways that he can win as a rusher, but then also from the strength aspect. And as many issues I have in the lower body, and where you get sideways and he's get pushed out of the play on outside zone blocks, you get him singled up and you can find something there. So Rayquan Williams is interesting because we know we just need guys there, right? It's kind of one of those things where it's like, there's openings, right? There's potential openings, but we have like 7 dudes kind of locked in beyond that. We have 7 guys locked in, and then there's potential openings all across the board. A lot of guys on 1-year deals, right? There's not a lot of guys that are locked in to their role at that spot. So anybody that brings flexibility, immediately you think, okay, that could make sense for the Lions. And I think that this falls into that mold. While he plays a little bit different than maybe some of the other guys, it's the Mekhi Wingo mold. It's the mold of a little bit of Josh Pascal, but it's the Miles Adams mold. It's a little bit of that makes some sense here. So Rayquan Williams did a lot of versatility up and down the line, 28 years old. we haven't really seen much of him on the field. You have to go back multiple seasons, but he started with Philly, then the Jacksonville, and then Carolina in 2023, and that's the last time we really saw him. So interesting pickup here, but again, Michigan State fans may have some familiarity with who Rayquan Williams is. Now let's go to the other pickup, the other veteran edition. We haven't really talked about these two guys, so I want to give them attention first. And this is going to be Malik Taylor, wide receiver, who was most recently, we got to see him with the New York Jets. That's the most recent that we got to see him specifically. Again, that goes back to 2023. He only had 2 receptions that year. So there's not like not a lot to look at, to be honest with you. You kind of got to go back to, if you want to look at preseason, there's just not really any production here from Malik Taylor. But Malik Taylor is a little bit on the older side, 29 years old, but he's a big dude, 6'3", 220. And what stuck out to me was when you think about adding an Isaac Tesla, you think about a big guy that kind of aligns in the slot. As soon as I'm showing you here, that's exactly what he's doing. He's going to be number 86 as we watch through this here. And he did that same thing with the Jets. Now, we only really saw him in a couple of games in 2023, like when it was, okay, game's kind of over, we'll just throw him in the game, that kind of thing. But for the most part, he played that like big slot kind of role. He'd line inside and outside, and I think the body control was the biggest standout, right? So we think about Tesla, the body control that he has for a big man. I felt that as well when I ended up watching Malik Taylor at this size, is the body control he showcased, the ability to win underneath, which is, again, the first like impression of Isaac Tesla for me was the exact same thing. It's like, yo, this guy's big, he's fast, but he wins underneath. Like, he's got the looseness to kind of go win underneath. I feel that with Malik Taylor to a certain extent as well, but he still does have some of that striding capability where you watch him and he can create double moves, he can get over the top. You still see some of that ability to really open up some of those double move opportunities. And if you think about, some of the competitions that he's going to have with like guys like Antoine Green, things like that, it falls in line to make sense. Jackson Meeks, of course, guys like that, right? That can kind of win one-on-one, be a little bit on the taller side, vertical threats, and he falls right into that category perfectly for this. But I think the versatility is what stands out when you see him line inside and outside, and you see some of the flexibility to his game. He also looked to be a pretty nice route runner. Again, back to a disciplined perspective as a route runner, his ability to really make a lot of things look the same from the upper body, from the waist up consistently with his eye movement, with the way that he would pump his arms, the way that he'd press downfield. His strides may change. He didn't feel overly dynamic, like in and out of breaks. It didn't feel like, okay, if we run him on this in breaker, he's going to separate from the dude and just start gaining. Like, you didn't feel that, but you felt a consistent ability to separate at the top of routes because he showed some real bend. He could really sink through his routes. His footwork was super efficient. It allowed him to go win off the line of scrimmage, allowed him to showcase some press release ability as well. And you could see he can win on these level 1 routes. He can kind of cut guys off underneath. So I just got some vibes of kind of what we already have here a little bit in some ways, but it came back to the footwork in a lot of that sense. To me, is the footwork was very smooth for a bigger receiver. And again, he opened up a pretty diverse route tree because of that. You could run him on in breakers and he could be successful. You could open up double moves because the way that he could sell his double moves, and you watch him, it's very crisp. There's a lot of crisp cuts to his game, but because of the vertical push that he had, which was really disciplined, he could get in the guy's blind spots. As you see here, he gets guys flipped around, right? He could get guys with his route integrity to open lanes for him to kind of attack as a receiving option. And, we didn't really see much production from him, but his ability to kind of snap off routes, run tight breaks, open up a diverse route tree, play inside, outside is what stands out to me when watching all of this. And again, for a big body, like typically you run these like deep curls, deep comebacks. I remember this with Antoine Green, where it was like, okay, you kind of need to box dudes out at the catch point. Like Peoples-Jones is a good example of this because maybe don't separate that well. Or Tim Patrick's a good example, I would say. I think Peoples-Jones actually was pretty capable because he would kind of get guys on his back hip and then roll off of it. But you think about like the Tim Patricks or the Greens, and it was like, all right, they're not really separating at the top of the route a little bit. The guys are kind of just sticking with him when they're getting to the top of the route. But he's got the footwork and the bend to really sink down and kind of create separation in those spots. Now, again, for me, didn't feel overly dynamic as an athlete. Right, you didn't feel like when he was getting in and out of breaks, there was a lot of juice to his game. There's not really much production to kind of jump into here. And when he was tracking the football, even though it was a lot of opportunities, I'll need to see more. But man, it's just like he wasn't coming up with the football. Now you would see that he'd run his routes detailed enough where like he could run a deep post route and it would look the same the entire time, even through the top of the break, where like cornerbacks wouldn't get a jump on it. He'd hold off coverage corners off simply because of the way that he ran the routes. Like guys were struggling to jump routes against him, even though he wasn't flying out of breaks because of the way that he would hold it upfield vertically. So he tied his footwork and his discipline really well together and found success. I think about a guy like that. It's like, okay, he could probably beat some zone coverage for sure, but he can definitely separate and he gives you more of like a potential linear route tree. But at the same time, felt that it was still there's a lot of diversity you could tap into there, especially when you see a guy that can line everywhere. So Malik Taylor was also signed. To me, this just feels like competition for what we have. Like, again, it feels like competition for a Jackson Meeks, for an Antoine Green, potentially, maybe even a little bit of a Ronnie Bell. Like, it's kind of what it throws into. But the body type is fantastic here. Lions looking for a little bit of size. I wouldn't say it's really competition for like a Tim Patrick. He's going to make the team, that kind of thing. But I don't know. I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it, right? You're kind of buying in with both these guys in the trade's not really production, which is understandable. The veterans that are still available, there's not really any production there to buy into, but that's what you're kind of buying into with both of these guys. It's like, okay, there's some traits that we like here. Now, I would assume, especially when you watch a guy like, when you look at a guy like Rayquan Williams and the consistency of his footwork and the efficiency, that I would assume that he and both Malik kind of gave off that similar presence where it's like, okay, they're playing really fast and they're very consistent with how they do workouts, right? Like in and out of drills, they're very consistent. They can separate as a receiver, as a defensive lineman. He gets to his spot really quickly, right? He understands angles. So I think when you have those two things, that can stand out through this kind of portion. And I think that's probably what showcased, right? Just more opportunities, been around a little bit longer, that they're probably playing a little bit faster. It doesn't guarantee either of these guys are going to make the team, in my opinion, but it is nice to see. Now, that said, we also have one of these undrafted players who came in for a tryout that has, as of now, been signed by the Lions. And, it's sometimes, you look for the name and you're like, all right, who's going to surprise me? Like, you're trying to find the guy that's surprised and like, this guy's a little under the radar. I don't know. And it just turns out the Lions signed Luke Deal. Now, we'll see if more things come down the line. But if you saw, I dropped the video late last night. Luke Deal is kind of it feels kind of like an easy one. Like, I'm going to be honest. This one was like super obvious. When you saw the news, I'm not saying I would have like predicted this necessarily. I didn't know if you're going to sign any of these dudes. But like when you saw the name, it was like, oh, wow, okay, that's interesting. Like this was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I'm not surprised at all, to be honest with you. Again, I don't think it's a lock to make the team, but they also turned around and Caden Preiskorn from Ole Miss, who they signed, gave some guarantees to as an undrafted free agent, has already been waived, and they went with Luke Deal. Now, I've talked about how I wanted to see, like, hey, and this is an opportunity. Can you show a little production? Can you show the ability to separate? Do you at least have the traits to potentially separate a little bit as a route runner? Can you show some of that value? Because both him and Caden would fall into a similar group. Caden had production in college, but he wasn't really beating man coverage. He was kind of settling down, like finding some zone windows, soft hands. There wasn't that much production for him either. But Luke Deal had very little production, like very little production. I think it was 12 or 17 receptions in his entire career. I think it was 17. Didn't have much production. But what Luke Deal had was this dude would block, and he blocked incredibly well. And when we did the trial video, kind of the note that I had to keep bringing up to myself, and I wanted to make it clear was like, yo, the Lions sign any of these dudes, you got to look at special teams value, right? You got to look at that. Now, I think for these two, Malik Taylor and both Rayquan, not sure how much special teams value they'll actually add to the team. So I don't think they're a lock to make the team. I'm not sure. Maybe they do. Maybe they can add something there, but I think it's just legitimate competition here as we move forward. Last year, we've had different guys in that role, right? Remember, Rayquan Smith was kind of in that role. He was the vet from New Orleans, the big body, the vertical threat over top. I don't think he even made the team. But Rayquan Williams kind of fell into that. And remember, Rayquan Smith from New Orleans. He kind of went through training camp, didn't really do anything. That was kind of that player. I'm not saying that has to be Malik Taylor, but I'm saying we've had guys like that before. And, from the defensive line perspective, we got 7 locks and a lot of them I don't really know. So we got a lot of openings and potential to compete. And look, some of those guys that are sticking around, like the Miles Adams, I mean, it was kind of in a similar role that they found their opportunity here, mainly because of injuries this past season. But Luke Deal, with where the Lions are at tight end wise, Brock Wright, you kind of take away the first 3 or the first 2 between Brock Wright and Laporta, and then you have Zylstra, kind of the pass catcher. But the Lions got a lot of dudes that don't really have a lot of receiving production. Kenny Yeboah. They brought in Horton. They brought in Horton out of Indiana, right? Really didn't have much there. Like, I don't know if he's really going to win much of a receiver, but he'll block. He's kind of undersized, but he'll block. Lions brought in a lot of those pieces, right? Dwayne Martin, dude's a fullback. I guess that's a little bit different. Luke Deal is like this guy. I don't know if he's going to catch the ball, but I do know that he was a finalist for the Jason Witten Man of the Year award this last year. I do know that he was a 2-time team captain and he had a ton of collegiate experience. And, the games that I had went, and I'm fired up to watch more of this guy, knowing now that he's going to stick around. But like, even if you just take one game, just watch him against Georgia, and you're seeing him against Ingram Dawkins, who I believe was a 4th-round pick by the Minnesota Vikings, Jalen Walker, Malik Williams at times, and you're seeing him in line. You're like, it actually looks pretty good. Like, this doesn't look like it's a problem at all. He looks like one of the better blockers that I've seen consistently. And he did it across all 3 phases, really, when you think about a tight end blocking, right? In line, on the move, and in pass protection, right? Sometimes you get these pieces that are one or the other, and typically it's because of their receiving ability. You think about them like, oh, he's a slot. You don't really want to use him in line as much because he's not going to block much, but he can kind of go run routes. This is a piece that did it all as a blocker, and it's just like, are we going to get anything as a pass catcher? I don't really know. I have no idea, right? So that's the thing that I would want to figure out, and I assume that that's what this opportunity was for. But when you think about special teams, This is the kind of piece that makes a ton of sense, especially with the new kickoff rules where it's not your like normal, return formations that you would typically run, right? Where you kind of stagger it and you have like, three guys up front, two back. Like you're not doing that anymore. You're not creating the triangle. Instead, you don't have, you don't have the full back or the other backs. You're a little bit more straightforward. You one or two returners and you got a line of guys across. Like it's just different now. And when you think about lining those guys up on kick return, you're like, okay, who can I trust that's just going to go block somebody? He's not going to hold. He's going to get his man. He's going to play with leverage. Maybe we're trying to do it a certain way. Maybe you want to, return a certain direction. Maybe you're, for your job to like, hey, we're just going to try to keep your guy on your outside shoulder, right? Press him this direction. We're going to try to open up this way. That kind of thing. Who can we trust in these spots to do that and not hold? Who can move and block well? And Luke Deal was that. I mean, he was that at Auburn. You trusted him on the move. You put him out in space. He'd run and block guys. He'd pick guys up. He'd drop his weight. He'd step into the box. He was physical enough. He seemed to have no issue dealing with bigger defensive linemen. He stepped in without a concern at all. And then pass protection, like, hey, he's kind of long, plays a nice base, kind of locks guys out, settles himself down, latches, and you're like, that's pretty good as a pass protector. So for me, Luke Deal was incredibly well-rounded as a blocker. And it's just about everything else, which is like, yeah, that's legitimate. Okay, we need to see more probably for you to have a shot to actually make the team. But when I think about like what would get you on a team first, it's going to be special teams. And his skill set translates to special teams incredibly well, especially from a returning spot, right? I could even put him on punt return. I feel like I could put him on the ends and put him on punt return and let him help block there, right? Deal with those guys off the line, shoot downhill. Like I feel like I could trust him in a lot of these situations. Maybe I could put him on a punt team, right? Where I have him out there. You can put him out there on the line. You can put him out there if he can tackle, right? I guess we'll find out. If he can tackle, can we put him out there? Can we put him out there as a personal protector, right? Because of his movement speed, can we put him in that spot where we trust him to kind of, play wide, be disciplined, get your hands on guys, keep him away from the punter? Like all of those things, the skill set says this works. So Luke Deal being signed is fascinating, but it also really isn't a shock because he did it against really good competition and he blocked incredibly well. So welcome Luke Deal to the squad. We're going to have to talk about him a little bit more because even if it was like a short video or something we did, just doing something on like, hey, let's look at 7 minutes of him blocking guys. Like, I mean, it could be worth doing it. It could be worth doing it because I haven't seen a game where I was like, I don't love this. And yeah, he did go to MSU. Now, the last news that we have, and I've said it a few times, but Caden Preiskorn getting waived by the Lions here. Now, again, we'll see. All these stuff can shake. And that just because of the moves they made now doesn't mean it's like, oh, nothing else is going to happen. They can't sign anybody else. Things could happen down the road. Injuries happen. You get familiar with these guys. A lot of things are on the table, right? No one here is actually locked to make the team. But Caden being let go, it's interesting because he had some of the guaranteed money. It tells you that doesn't really mean anything from an undrafted free agent perspective. It means getting him on the team, right, over somewhere else, but it doesn't really mean anything from actually making the team as we see right now. And the tight end position is pretty loaded. But for me, Caden I thought he was a good blocker in college. The problem is he felt like he had to put on more mass. It was like, this guy just doesn't look like he has the build to do it. So I don't know what it was in camp, but I would assume that was a little bit of an issue. And I would also assume that as a pass catcher, he just didn't showcase much separation upside. He probably wasn't winning very many one-on-ones would be my guess, because that really didn't feel like his skill set at Ole Miss. It just felt like a reliable pass catcher. So did he drop a few passes? Was he not winning contested situations? Did he not show strong hands in those spots? Like, could it be all of those things? And that's very possible. That could have been a lot of those different things, because the Lions looked at it and said, he's an okay blocker, but he really only wins against zone coverage. Just like, yeah, but we have Shane Zylstra. I mean, to be fair, like is not really to me, I'm not like keeping that guy over Shane Zylstra. Like there's no point there. So like, yeah, I mean, you kind of have a redundance of that unless he could, bulk on and be more consistent as an inline blocker. And then, because athletically, he's already not great. And then it's like, all right, can he, because he's going to give me more than Zylstra as a pass catcher. That's probably already a tough uphill climb for him. So ultimately, it's understandable, but that is the first kind of wave of roster moves the Lions gave us. Now, as mentioned, tomorrow or Wednesday, to Wednesday, we're going to be reacting to the schedule release, which will be dropping. Outside of that, the only other thing the two things that I thought about touching on today, one was potentially looking at kind of the upcoming opponents, ranking those. We may just save that. That was kind of an opportunity to do that, but I don't know if I want to do that. And the other thing was Avonte Maddox, because today I went through and started really kind of diving back into the whole Avonte Maddox thing. But for me, overall, it just makes sense at safety. Like the more I watch it, the more I'm like, yeah, this makes some sense here. He just didn't play a lot of it this past season, but I think the skill set kind of shines for that. But yeah, let's do this really quickly. We got a few minutes left. I just want to kind of give, and this is like a preview to what's going to happen Wednesday when the schedule drops. Just a little preview to kind of what we're looking at here when it comes to the Lions opponents. and who's maybe most difficult, who's kind of the easier side. Like I was going to rank them, but it just made more sense to do this. But so if we just go through it real quick, the Lions, of course, will face their own division this upcoming season. They also will face the NFC East this upcoming season, with the 2 home games being the Giants and also Dallas. So the Giants and Dallas are both at home. I personally think Dallas, roster-wise, could be pretty good this year. They just have kind of some messy stuff going off the field. All the George Pickens stuff is coming out now, so I guess we'll see. And then also the Giants at home, so you feel pretty good about that. On the road, then it means Washington and Philly. Now, we did hear, and I think this was like the early leaks, like, yeah, we're not getting Philly week 1, which I'm personally very cool with. Like, I don't need to play with Philly week 1. I don't like playing divisional opponents week 1 either, really. So I think that they ended up getting matched up with like Dallas or Washington or something week 1. And I was like, hey man, y'all can have that. I don't love that, so I'd rather not have that. We'll see what happens though. And then also we're going to face the AFC North, which is Pittsburgh, Cleveland, both those teams being at home this year. Like, I feel pretty good about some of these home games, and I actually like this from a weather perspective. Having Pittsburgh at home feels pretty nice, as well as Cleveland. Like, I just remember a couple years ago, we were a way different team, man. We had to play Cleveland on the road. That was just ugly. That was super ugly. Like, I'm glad we don't have to do that again. Now, on the road, Baltimore, that could be messy, but the thing with Baltimore is, like, hopefully we get to play them early, and they smoked this last time, so it didn't really matter. But we got Baltimore, and then also you would have Cincinnati on the road, which, again, weather could be a thing, but I think with the way that they play, they're not really like built stylistically, I think, and like, oh man, they're a much better run team or a much better stopping the run. Like, they don't feel like a better physical, more like a trenches kind of team anyway. If anything, they're like not that. So actually, I think potentially terrible weather could help us. Like, that's one of those games where it's like, hey, if the weather was garbage, it actually could be beneficial, So we'll see. And then outside of that, the other games we have is Tampa Bay at home, which now feels kind of like a yearly thing. This is like tradition now. We just play Tampa Bay all the time. All right, I'm with it. I guess they won 10 games this past season. I'm with it. And then we also have Kansas City on the road, as well as the Rams, which I think it's about time. Rams probably like, yeah, it's about time we actually get to play this team at home. Last time, look, the last 3 matchups has been fantastic. Even the one on the road, right? First year we're losing every game. We almost beat the Rams. Like, we've had fantastic games against the Rams. Those always bring a buzz, and I love playing in LA. Like, I have no issue with that. Again, weather is not going to be a problem there. Nothing there. Kansas City could be interesting. Kansas City, of course, could be interesting, but ain't nobody worried about no Kansas City. So ultimately, man, those are the upcoming opponents there. We'll get to the full thing when it drops Wednesday. We'll react to it all. We'll go through it all. But with that being said, that kind of ended it for us, man. I think we hit on everything we needed to hit on. In terms of other players, we did have a lot of rookies coming to try out. There could be more, news coming down the road there. But I think the biggest thing that would be the thing to kind of keep an eye on it, because again, it's early, but you think about filling out the roster, getting to 90 man. I don't think this puts them at 90 exactly, but they're very close. I could double check, but I don't think they're there yet. But I think what's important about this is it also kind of tells you, like, okay, there's a lot of UDFA still sticking around to this point. There wasn't a ton of turnover. There's a lot of UDFA still sticking around. I don't know how that compares to the rest of the league, but both of their running backs, Robichaux, we got to see some videos from. So you keep him around. You keep Anthony Tyus around. Both their backs there, both receivers sticking around. The Zach Corton one becomes interesting for me because he is fascinating to watch. I think if that dude had some pads on, you let him hit people, he'd look awesome. I hope that he gets to that point. That dude kind of looks like he could play a little bit of fullback too. If you need him to, he probably could. Offensive line's interesting at this point because I'm not really sure how much you gauge out of what you've seen so far with these. We got some nice UDFA signings on the offensive line. When it came to the tryouts for the offensive line, we really didn't make any moves there. It was just Bryce Benhart, who I think had an uphill climb anyway. I don't know. Something might happen there. I think if anything, maybe that's like one of those guys where it's like, okay, we have you in the back of our mind kind of thing. Maybe they try to move him at guard and they tried some flexibility with him, just see what that would look like. Because I think that may have to be his best spot. And the problem with that is, like, he's not built to be a guard at all, but his skill set could say move him inside. So they didn't really touch on that too much. I don't think there's much to really grab from what happened with the offensive line. When it comes to, the defensive line side of things, the Lions brought in some dudes here for this to compete with Isaac Ukwu. I liked the defensive ends that we brought in when it came to some of these tryouts. We haven't got any news, but I like both Keys Cooper and I also like Corey Suttle. I like both of these guys, but the Lions have a type. The Lions have a type, and they showed us all Ahmed clips. So I don't really know if we have much from that, but I like both those. So I'm still keeping an eye on something potentially going down. They brought in just a plethora of DBs, cornerbacks/safeties, brought in tons of dudes there in terms of tryouts. Signing-wise, Gavin Holmes was the only one that they signed, and they showed Gavin Holmes in one of the clips being beat by Tesla. But Gavin Holmes was uber talented, just didn't play much with Texas. Right? That's kind of the big thing there, but he's very talented. Even by the play that they got beat on, we saw that he looked pretty talented. And then Ian Kennelly at safety, which is interesting because all these cornerbacks brought in. I thought maybe we'd see some news there where it's like, all right, we'll keep one of these corners. We'll see if we can give him a shot at safety. Point being is I just think we got to keep an eye on anything else going down because I don't think it's all closed off right now. These are just kind of the first time around. But they didn't keep the fullback, at least as of now, which is a little bit disappointing. I I don't know. Like I mean, maybe Luke Deal legitimately could play fullback. I mean, if you watch Luke Deal, he plays in line. I could put him in a split back and have him go lead the way. Like he hits linebackers. The way that he does it, technically speaking, as well, because of his flexibility as a mover, like that dude could blind at fullback. I mean, think about Brock Wright's kind of held it down at fullback. So would you tell me if before any of this, if you told me like, hey, Luke Deal is going to be better at fullback if we put him in that role than a guy like Caden would be, I'd be like, yeah, I'd believe that 100%. So a guy like that, could be very interesting. That could be an opening door for him. He doesn't do much in the pass game. All right, put him at fullback because at least he's got some tight end hands to him. Put him there. He doesn't have much of a route tree, but he'll run some flats. He did some like kind of delayed routes out of the backfield. Do that with him. So overall, then the rest of the veteran perspective, Travis Gibson, as we have heard so far, he hasn't been re-signed. So that was kind of the one I was keeping my eye on. But Lions brought in a lot of dudes to play that role. So seemingly they feel pretty good. Maybe Uku had a good showing. Maybe that's a big positive take away from this. And I would also throw this last name just because we may revisit this at some point before we get out of here. And that's going to be Nate Lynn. Don't overlook Nate Lynn, man. Nate Lynn was a dog in college. The dude just we didn't really get to see him last year, right? I believe it was injury that kind of knocked him out. Don't overlook Nate Lynn. That's the guy that I'm intrigued by. You also had Deron Gilbert. Lions brought in under the linebackers, so maybe they feel pretty good about how Deron Gilbert did, or maybe they didn't love the linebackers, which I think is possible. There was a lot of up and down there. And then offensive line-wise, Kingsley's still here as of now. They didn't make any changes, but Leaf was also a undrafted free agent signing. So, there was really nothing going to sway that. But yeah, Nate Lynn out of William & Mary, man. The Lions got some connection with William & Mary. We got to figure out what that is. But ultimately, Nate Lynn's, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. And don't be surprised if a month from now we get a random episode where it's like, hey, we talk about Nate Lynn a little bit. Anyways, I'm going off. Let's end it right there, man. I appreciate y'all joining over here on Bleacher Report, man, for the 3 trial players the Lions signed, some of the latest roster moves. And I will see y'all Wednesday for the schedule release. It just depends on when it releases when we go live. But it'll be sometime at night. And I'm out. All right, chat, we're out of there. We got some Packers fans in the chat. That's great. I see you. Go, Pack, go. Stop it. Eagles and Cowgirls will be the first game. I didn't forget I see that. I saw that. I try to stay away from the rumors. I'm trying to. I don't want to see them. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to see him anyway, but I'm trying to stay away from him just to add as much excitement as I can tomorrow. So tomorrow I'm not going to really, or for Wednesday, tomorrow I'm going to do my best to just not look at any rumors until Wednesday. So I'm going to be pretty raw when it comes to all the rumors that start coming out. Who's Nate? What is he? Are you going, you are going too fast. Yeah, Nate Lynn. Nate Lynn's edge rusher. He was an undrafted free agent last year that we ended up bringing in. He had kind of a weird body type. He's a little bit smaller than some of these other edge, closer to 250. Again, he's on a shorter side too. He's just over 6 foot tall. So he had kind of a weird build to him, right? Wasn't your classic super long, that kind of build. But Nate Lynn was super productive at William & Mary. And I think it was an injury, if I'm remembering right, that ended up knocking him out last season. We really didn't get a chance to see what he was going to do. He's someone that I'm intrigued by, right? Because all these edge rushers, all these new guys, and Nate Lynn just kind of feels like he's stuck around through all of this. The Lions seemingly had some love for him. And I want to see it if some of it can come together this year. So, yeah, William & Mary, shoulder injury in the preseason, loss to the Giants. So, yeah, we had a lot of injuries last year. I guess it got started from jump. So, the preseason opener, and he was rolling. He ended up getting injured, knocked him out, and that was it. I'm just saying, that's someone to keep it. He's going to be very under the radar. He'll probably end up in some sort of under the radar video that we do at some point. But I saw him on the depth chart this morning, and I was like, man, we haven't talked about Nate Lynn very much. But man, there was some belief that I had with that guy. But I do want to check this real quick because I know that he played in the preseason. So he played 22 snaps and he had 5 pressures. Think about that. Dude had 5 pressures on 22 snaps in the preseason. Yeah, we're going to have to do a show on this guy because, bro, there's something to that, right? A guy that really doesn't perform at all. You're bringing all these edge rushers, and all of a sudden Nate Lynn is just kind of under the radar, floating. He's just sticking around. And you're like, all right, why is he still here? There might be a reason why he's still here. That's what I'm saying. This guy, I think there's some love for Nate Lynn, and I think he's kind of the area of competition when you think about like an Ahmed and things like that. What's good? What's up, JT? Our OC will keep our offense lethal. Lethal. Well, shoot, I hope so, man. Our offense was as good as it got, so I hope so. Crave as well. I heard he was the one that started our offense. I don't know. Like I always struggle with that. Even in the video I did, I struggle with like what to give him credit for, that kind of thing. Because we don't know, right? It wasn't like he was like the OC when we could, like he was here when the offense took a big jump. But it already was. I think it was 2022, right? So yeah, I think it was 2022. So we had the back end of the first season, which I thought was really good already when Ben Johnson kind of already took over. So from that perspective, we already kind of saw the Lions like, okay, yeah, they're doing some really good things like towards the end of that first year. So you start with how much, like, okay, how much do we want to give him credit for? But I do think there's things that carried over. And this was really my focus, is like, I think there was things that did carry over from what you saw when he was, when he was with us in that season versus what you've seen with him in other places as well. Just stylistically, I think there was some similarities there. So I'm not going to give him like too much credit for it, because like it'd be like me looking at what Denver did last season and being like, yeah, that was John Morton. Like, it assume he had a role in that, right? There's a reason they brought him in there, but it wasn't John Morton's offense. You know what I'm saying? So things like that are a little bit difficult to kind of gauge. They're a little bit difficult to gauge, but yeah, I mean, I'm excited for him. I think John Morton's going to do a good job. And John Morton, when we hired him, I remember we had like a weird, like super random video with John Morton. We hired him. It's like, he was like the guy. I don't remember what it was. I have to figure out what I called it. I made a video on John Morton when we hired him, because what I would do with all the coaches is, y'all know, I'd put all the numbers together and kind of just see, you know, and I remember like looking at his stuff and I was like, man, this is kind of awesome. And I felt like this would be the next guy that'll kind of pop. Like this could be the next guy we start talking about. I remember making a video, I think, saying that, like, I think this is gonna be the guy that people are talking about during the year, because the season going, and he'll be the guy that gets some attention, kind of like that underrated coach gets attention. It ended up not happening because, well, for whatever reason, he just didn't really get attention during the season. But the offense did take off. The offense was really good that season. He didn't really become a name that got mentioned at all. He kind of just was in and out, and he kind of just dipped out, and it was like, all right, that just happened. But then when you look back a couple years, like, it would make sense that he did have a lot to do with that. It's like, oh, well, actually, he was really good. So it actually works out. You know, it actually works out. Did Love have a drop problem in college? I haven't seen, like, when I've watched of him, I don't know what his numbers are, to be honest with you. But I've watched so far, I don't feel like he's had a drop problem. I don't think he has great hands. I wouldn't throw him into that category. Like, I think from just a hand placement perspective, like a technique aspect, like I didn't think it was great. And then here's my bigger issue is when things were outside of his frame, he felt super inconsistent. Anytime the ball was outside of his frame, it felt inconsistent. When the ball was on him, I felt like it was fine for the most part. Like, and you know, he had some transition ability too. So I didn't think he like had bad hands, but I also wouldn't say like this dude was just snatching things out of the air. Like, it was, his range felt like a legitimate issue when you watched him, his radius, that kind of thing felt like a legitimate issue. Anything that was kind of outside of his body, which definitely hurts your route tree a little bit too when it kind of becomes that. So I wouldn't say a hand problem. I just don't think they were great hands. Give a lowdown in Louisiana now. Will you give the lowdown? I am in Louisiana now. Okay, I see you. Have you ever had gumbo? I think I had some form of gumbo. I think I have. I don't know though. It wasn't from like Louisiana, but at the draft they actually had, I think, gumbo one day. I think, was it gumbo or was it? Maybe it wasn't gumbo. I think it was gumbo. I don't know. I think it was. I can't remember exactly. So maybe I have it. Maybe I haven't. If I don't know what it, let me look it up real quick. What is gumbo? Gumbo is soup. Okay. This looks like what they had. I don't know though. There's like a lot of stuff in this. I mean, this stuff looks smack though. My goodness. Yeah, there's like a lot going on here. I don't think we had that. I don't think we had that. We had soups. I'm sure we had soups. I don't think we had that though. So I'm gonna say no. Not like that. Never had something that looks like the Google images pictures. I'll say that. But we might have to run some Nate Lynn highlights, bro. Like I'm you know what I mean? Like, bro, I think I gave myself an idea for tomorrow. We're gonna look at some Nate Lynn, bro. I think we might do a Nate Lynn video tomorrow. I ain't gonna lie, man. I gotta get to this draft stuff, but I'm fired up about this dude. So who do you think is gonna have a huge season? I think I think JMO is gonna have a big year. I think JMO is going to cost a lot after the season. I think he's gonna get a ton of opportunities downfield. I think they're gonna get a lot of one-on-one shots. I think he's gonna go crazy this year. From a numbers perspective, I think he's gonna have a massive year. You expect all those guys to be pretty productive, but I do think there's gonna be an emphasis to get Jameson the ball vertically. So I think we're gonna see a lot there. Now, hopefully they don't stop doing what worked, right? I think some of the route tree that they ended up like kind of using with him as we worked forward there, it made a lot of sense. You shouldn't change it, to all the way because some of it was good and it was like, all right, this works to his skill set. It works for the offense. When they run like kind of those deep slants and those they really want to ask him to do a lot of like sinking into his routes. He was kind of just cutting routes off. That worked. So I don't want to like get away from that, but I do think they're going to take a lot of one-on-one shots this year, more so than I think what we've seen so far. Man, like, bro, this is crazy. I wish we signed Willie Lampkin. Yeah, dude, I don't know. Lampkin was so hard because like I don't know how you draft a guy like this. Like that was always my issue with him. Like the guy was like he made it work for his size. Credit to him. I remember when first watching Willie Lampkin. Like I think PFF ranked him pretty high. And I was like, oh, this guy must be a dog. And they were looking at me like, how is this guy? How's he even doing this? Like this dude is tiny. So I don't know. Is Willie Lampkin still on the squad? He probably is. He probably ain't got let go yet. That probably happened. Tesla at 200 to 1 odds. For your sake, then hopefully we get him going by like week 4. Because I think if he got within the offense, like if he can get in the offense relatively early, I think that's possible. Rookie of the year, like yeah, I mean the competition this year is what Cam Ward. Like I don't know how good that's gonna go. There's really not a quarterback up there, so it feels kind of open. I'm not mad at that bet. 200 to 1. I'm not mad at that. I think that's interesting. Sign with the Rams. Okay. Heard you talking about John Morton. Most likely bring back fullback Troy. I hope we stay away from. I thought we would. We'll see. I say that kind of in a joking sense because like last year we had fullback usage. We just didn't have a fullback. So we did it. We just did it with Brock Wright. I think that will come back this year. I think Luke Deal has a shot to do that. I think Brock Wright will likely do it as well. So I think that will still be utilized. I don't know that we're actually going to have a player that's called a fullback. That was just one of my early guesses because John Morton's always had an offense that has kind of had a fullback in some capacity, unless you go with like Denver. I don't think they had a fullback those last couple of years. So like I thought maybe they would like, yeah, this is our fullback, and that's still possible. But I think as we're kind of working forward now, it's probably not going to happen that they actually have a fullback. But I think somebody's going to line there. Like they're gonna have sets with a lead blocker. I think I think that will be a thing occasionally. 42 million in cap space. Why are we signing guys? It's all rollover, man. It's all rollover. And the most difficult thing to kind of explain that is there's rules that you have to spend 90% of the cap within a 4-year span. I don't know what the 4-year timeline is, which is a problem. If I knew that, it would help me out a lot. I don't know what that is. But for the Lions' sake, if they can hit that threshold over the 4-year span, because it doesn't mean you have to spend 90 every year, it just means within 4 years you have to spend 90% of your cap. So if the Lions can do that and roll over 40 million, which they're going to spend some of that, right? Like you have a guy they're going to spend some of it, right? Interest will come up if you want to trade for someone during the year. Some of that's going to get spent. But anyway, it's only guys that touch the top 51 as of the off season, right? Until you get into the regular season, then some of that money's going to move. Once you get into the year, you're going to have guys kind of up and down the roster. Roster gets cut to 53. You have a guy signed that's going to take some cap. Like things are going to be spent towards the cap. So we'll probably knock off at least 5 of that during the season. And that said, though, as long as they hit that number, and I would assume that they feel like they're in a pretty good spot to roll over a lot of this, they're going to try to roll over and push, I think, a lot of that money forward, which is why they're just saying, let's just not spend it now because we know we need this. We know like Lions don't have cap space next season, and they're already set up where it's like, you're probably going to have to restructure some dudes. Now we don't know what the number is going to be. So while it says we don't have any money, it's not true because we don't know what the number is going to be. The number is set high enough. We could have a ton of money, but that just means everybody else will have a lot more than us. We don't have much money, right? We actually are negatives according to the early projections, but those projections aren't going to be accurate. So Lions need money next year. They're probably going to have to restructure some dudes. They're going to have to jump off some of these super high base salaries. They're going to throw some guarantees in there. They're going to have to drop some numbers. And I think for them, it's just simply that. They're like, hey, we have to be disciplined because I'm sure they're looking at like, oh, we could go add somebody, but we have to be disciplined to make sure that we have that money because it's going to happen. And they've seemingly been stuck to that. I'm sure they have like a number that they're willing to get to, and they're kind of like they've locked themselves out of it. Like they're only acting as if they have so much money to spend. Kind of back to what Brad Holmes had told us when he was at like the meetings or league meetings or whatever, where he was like, obviously they told us about the Zarius Smith situation, but it was like, hey, we got these, don't go on vacation, that kind of thing. You got to pay for school, like all that. Like I'm sure they have a number. It's like we're only able to go this far. Everything else is we're just gonna act like we don't have it. So I think it's all that. And they typically do. They typically do push money forward. They typically do roll in. That's why their cap number is higher usually than most teams. Like last year, they rolled over money, right? So there was money last year. I don't think it was a ton, but I think it was like 15, somewhere in that range. So they had a higher cap number than some other teams as well. So I assume they're going to try to do it again. For the Clowney thing, I think it's a weird fit from this perspective, even just from this alone. Whatever you think about the player, I gave my thoughts on him in the video, but the idea of signing a guy like that to would probably be a reasonable deal. I'd say at least $6 million a year. And if it was a 1-year deal, say it was a good deal like that, something like that. It's like, all right, it's fine. The problem would be figuring out his rotation to make the player happy and for it to make sense for his perspective. Because, as I stated this many times, if Hutchinson's going to come in as a starter, if Davenport's healthy, he's going to be a starter. If you come in healthy, which is your expectation, right, and you have Pascal and you have Levi, like it's going to be hard to find snaps for him that's beyond just being a pass rush specialist. And if he's looking at like he wants to still play 60% of the snaps, which he's done over the last few years, signing here doesn't really make a ton of sense because that path is not there unless an injury happens. His path to signing here would make more sense if an injury already took place. And then he was like, hey, there's an opening. Now you sign him. We got to let you roll. If you don't do that, you know what I'm saying? Like if you do it now and those things don't happen, which hopefully they don't, he's kind of in a weird spot where he's just not going to play that much. You know, he can play on pass downs, but he won't play a ton. And so it might just make sense for him to go elsewhere. And then for the Lions' sake, are they willing to spend that much money? Obviously, no, because they're trying to save some. But even if they were more like, hey, we're cool, like, are they willing to spend that much money on a guy that's kind of just that? I don't know. And then, of course, when you get to like the Ahmed, if you want to see Ahmed play at any point this year, which I don't know how much we're going to see him this year, honestly. But if they do, putting Clowney in that spot also kind of makes like, I don't know how we're going to find this guy on the field. Like, it's going to be really difficult to get this dude on the field. So I think if anything, like that's something that would make more sense, like from that stature, that name, that production level, that would make more sense during the season. That'd be a move that you'd make when things pop up. That'd be a move second half of the season, deadline passes. That'd be that kind of move that I think that at that time they could do it. Otherwise, I don't know how it would make sense for him. That's the problem. Now there's other guys though. I still think like DeMarcus Walker could make sense early because, I mean, you get to a point with him where it's like we don't even play him. I think financially the price point could be, now maybe I'm wrong, right? He hasn't signed anywhere, but like that could be a guy that gets to a price point where like, well, worst case, he doesn't even play. It's like we didn't pay him that much where it's like it's insane what we're doing right now. And I think that's possible. So like someone like that, I think is very, very more likely. And I even brought up Von Miller. He's probably the biggest name that I think is possible because he is truly a pass rush specialist at this point. And that's something that if he knows what his role is, we would know what his role is to be straightforward. You're going to rush a passer. That's it. It's like, all right, how much more than that? I don't know. But for now, that's probably all you're going to do. And I think both teams would be cool with that. So I don't know. There's a lot. By the way, y'all, so I'm just like peeking on Nate Lynn in the background. Like this dude, I'm telling bro, like this guy, man, why are we not talking about him? This is on me. Nah, this is really on me, bro. Like we aren't talking about this dude at all. Video's coming soon. Right here. Look at the top of the screen. Just one really quick rep. Number 57. Look at this. Oh yeah, dude. Dude, there's something here, bro. There's something here. I think there's a reason he's here. There's a reason he's here, man. Lions brought in a lot of edges to compete. And think about it. Nate Lynn didn't even compete in the tryouts. Like Uku did, not Nate Lynn. I think it's possible. I don't know. Oh, shoot. Okay. We don't want to be the Saints. Yeah, nobody wants to be the Saints. I feel bad for the Saints, though. I feel bad for the Saints. I'm going to be honest with you. That's unfortunate, dude. Like, to lose your quarterback like that. And I hate that for Derek Carr, too. Like, I like watching Derek Carr play. And I felt bad for him last year. He got torched all year. They came out so good. And it was like, oh, this team's awesome. But then it just went downhill. I feel bad for him, bro. Like, I feel bad for that dude. That seems great or something, but, like, he wasn't trash. And he would play well. Like, you needed a system. It's like, you had to have some pieces around, dude. This dude is not going to just save your team. So I hate that for him. I really do, man. It's just super unfortunate. Shouldn't have ended like that. It's just such a sour note. The perception of him is not good right now. Just not a good way to go out. I hate that for him. So I'll stand behind him and be like, hey, Derek Carr was pretty good. Lynn replacing Ahmed. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, everything's fine. If he goes out there and cooks, then what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Hey, you're two, Nate Lynn. If he goes out there and cooks in camp, no, I mean, look, all honesty, though, he could. He could. Like, Ugu, he had a solid preseason. We had Betts last year competing. Like, dude, there was openings last year. This dude could go crazy in the preseason. Like, it's very possible, or not preseason. He could go crazy in camp and then into the preseason. He was great in the preseason before he got hurt. 5 pressures on 22 snaps is crazy. That's crazy. That's what he did against the Giants, and then he went out with an injury, a shoulder injury. And that is not even like a, it's not like a ligament or something. Like, bro, I don't know. He might be a dog. He might be a dog, man. Shout out to Visionary Roar with the 2-piece, man. I see you. Do you think Casey can unlock Ahmed? I think Casey's gonna be great. I think we've done a great job hiring defensive line coaches. I think, you go back to the start with Todd Wash, and then we've had fantastic defensive line coaches. I think this is just another step in that realm of like, oh yeah, another outstanding defensive line coach. I think the thing with Casey is, and I think we even see it from the moves we're making, but versatility up front matters. Rayquan Williams, versatility up front matters. You have to have that. But from a philosophy perspective, like the idea of being able to set an edge from a defensive end perspective, like having that first, play the run first is huge. And I think that the Lions went after a similar mold over and over. This is how they got things started. This was the mindset of the Lions defense when things began here. I think he's going to get us back to that. It's like, let's play the run first. Like, everything else is great, but we have to stop the run first. So I think he's going to get back to that. And I think Ahmed fits that. I think it's inside-outside flexibility helps because, to me, I think Ahmed could give you some juice on the inside. And Casey Rogers will tap into that. But it's not the craziest thing to be like, oh, yeah, put your DNs inside. Like, a lot of teams do that. But the creativity comes from on a first, second down when you're moving dudes around up front. And he's done that, right? He's moved guys that have been capable all over the place with Tampa. So I think from that perspective, he's at least going to give him a shot to move around, find spots to win, try to find weakness points. We'll see it in the preseason. Wouldn't be shocked in the preseason if he's doing some work on the inside. But specifically, like, his skill set fits that umbrella. Like, hey, create an umbrella up front, right? Let's press any other gaps. Let's set strong edges. He's going to fit. So at least from that, I think Casey Rogers' system matches Ahmed's play style. Everyone's talking about this Casey guy. I hope he is what he say. I mean, I don't know why. Like, I've seen the name so much over the last few days. Did we do a full breakdown on the Casey Rogers? I know we did the video when we hired him, and I was very excited. But let me look it up. I feel like I wanted to, but I don't know if I did. Lions do hire Casey Rogers. I may have only done one video on Casey Rogers. That's crazy. Wow, we might have to revisit that. Yeah, we might have to revisit that because I thought we did like some sort of breakdown on him, but maybe we didn't. Let me check real quick. Let me check because maybe it was this and it was just live, but I don't. So yeah, we did like a light breakdown. It looks like here. We did a light breakdown. This was our reaction when it happened. Yeah, we did. All we did was the reaction to it. We got to do a video on him because this is all we did. We did the. Oh, I'm covering myself. This is when we hired him. I showed some plays on him of his defensive line, the versatility up front. I had some numbers for him. But typically I'll look at the personnel they have too, and I don't think we did that. So yeah, hey, I mean, check this out in the meantime, but we got to add that to the list, bro. We got a lot of things to do, man. A lot of things. We got to talk about Nate Lynn. We got to do a Casey Rogers video. We got to yo, wait, we did a running back one. Yeah, man, we did the Shard Choice one. Why didn't we do a Rogers one? We got to keep going through our rookies. I'm working on Devontae Maddox right now. But there's not that many free agent signings, so that shouldn't take too long. There's only a few of those. DJ Reed's got to get his own. He's going to get his own. We can wait on those a little bit, though. So, yeah, we might have to revisit Casey Rogers here soon. We might have to. Problem with those just take a long time because they're kind of just all over the place. I don't really know what I'm looking for. I'm just kind of looking to see what happens. So that one might have to happen soon. I don't know. We'll see. Nate Lynn feels like a July video. That feels like a type of video that you do when nothing's happening. Let's talk Nate Lynn. probably what we'll do. That probably won't be. I don't know. Nah, it might be tomorrow. I don't know. It might be tomorrow because it won't take that long. So, I don't know. We'll squeeze that in. We'll figure it out. But the Casey Rogers one's got to be a focus. I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what we're doing there. He's gonna get 23 pressures on 22 snaps. Hey, look, I didn't know he was built like that. If that's the case, my bad, bro. My bad. Might get lucky. Bro, you already know we're getting the first pick. Just a real quick side note. I don't know what people are talking about, dog. Well, we can't have the Wizards get the 1 pick. Like, yeah, you can. We're trash. We need the 1 pick. What are you talking about? Wizards will get the 1 pick. They need to stop playing. Bro, they need to stop playing. We can be dangerous, too. That team's going to be dangerous next year. Pistons fans know. You know what I mean? We had some battles this year. We're going to be dangerous when you throw a Cooper Flag in the mix. I'm just saying. We're going to get him. Like, I'm not even worried about it. I don't need to watch it. I am not worried about it at all, to be honest. I'm just like, I know it's going to happen. So, you got to do Casey. I'm fiending. Ben Johnson has serious issues with Casey. Okay, let's he does. They did well, yeah, that whole defense. I mean, my goodness. The defense is a handful. And it's like the way that they would play like their coverages, like the way they would play like cover 3 all the time, but they would like play the flats really hard and they'd squeeze everything back inside. So the sidelines would be taken away and they'd squeeze you inside. And their linebackers were just a menace. That whole front was a problem. That whole Vita Vea made it all happen as the dog nose tackle. Lions are hoping they got their Vita Vea, even though he's not the same at all, really. But like, hey, if Tyler Williams was Vita Vea, we'd be amazing. We'd be amazing. Okay. I'm gonna put that on the forefront. I got you, bro. I'm gonna put that on the forefront. I'm gonna work on that next. Who's responsible for D lineman alignment? D line coach or D coordinator? Typically the defense coordinator would be. Now it depends because it usually goes hand in hand. Like at least from my experience, being around it, the defensive line will coach like they'll coach playing in different gaps, things like that. But the call is usually like it's multiple calls within one call. At least that's how we would do it. And this is not the NFL level, obviously. But there were still multiple calls within one call to figure out how everybody was going to align. But typically, you'd still have to create a full picture out of that. So usually, it wasn't like the defensive line coach would be like, hey, here's what we're going to like. It was still the defensive coordinator making the call. And the D-line coach would work with him in playing those roles. But ultimately, the defensive coordinator's call as a whole, like all 3 stages would lead to that. And then, some they say, hey, how the linebacker is going to play off that? Because the linebackers have to play off the D lineman, right? Like who's responsible for what? They have to feed off of that. And that creates those two have to be on the same page, right? So if the defensive line coach and linebacker are on the same page, then you're just gonna have guys covering up each other. So you don't want that. Usually, yeah, it'd come from the top down. And the positive is now our linebacker coach is our defensive coordinator. So we got that. But I mean, like he'll and that's the thing. Like you could see during this offseason, or not the offseason, but you could see like during practice, you could see where those two could overlap. Like that's very like, hey, whatever we're running defensively, schematically, whatever front we want to try to get to against this team, maybe this front against this offensive line because of this reason. That's something that you could work through the week. Like that's something that Casey could have a say in. Like here's how we're going to try to do things. Here's where he's comfortable playing. Here's why we want him at this spot. Like that's all things that he's going to kind of dabble around with, move guys around. But ultimately, it's all got to kind of come together, right? Defense line coach can't really just do his own thing, and everybody else just got to do it. It'll be a mess. It'll be a mess. But they'll all tie together. So again, meaning he'll have say. Like Casey Rogers will have say during the year, I'm sure, especially for a first-time DC. If he's him, I don't want to. I mean, we've had some dudes that were him though. Like I love me some Casey. I'm fired up about him. But like Todd Wash was him too. You know what I mean? Like Todd Wash had a long track record of doing some things. Terrell Williams was kind of him too, bro. Like we had some dudes. We've always had dudes there. NBA will never allow Jordan Poole to be Cooper Flagg's vet. That's crazy. That's crazy. They better. I see you with that sad face. They better, bro. They better because we're gonna cook. That duo is gonna be tough. And they got Chris Middleton in there working too. Come on, bro. All right, when is this thing happening? Actually, now I want to know. When is this? It's happening right now. I don't. Y'all need to tell. Oh no, bro, no. Hold on. That's it, but that's the hard part, right? It's like Casey Rogers isn't. Unless there's things I don't know, he's not calling defensive plays, right? He's coaching these dudes, man. He's coaching these dudes, and I'm not like bashing on Casey, but it's like there's been things that he's been a part of that haven't worked, right? Like Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, I wouldn't say worked with Tampa Bay. He's now elsewhere, right? Did he come back? Like, and he was a high investment. So like, it's not like everything's been perfect over there in Tampa Bay. I mean, Kalijah Kancey was a little bit rough early, but I guess that was kind of expected. There's a body type there after. Logan Hall didn't really pop early. I think he's been better as of late. So it's like, it's still all encompassing, right? It's like it's not just like everything's going to work out perfectly because you have Casey. That's my attempt to kind of like um just calm expectations for a second, right? Logan Hall is the top pick of the second round. He hasn't popped in the NFL. He was on the defensive line. Tryon-Shoyinka, I think, is gone now from there. I think he was a second or a first round pick, right? So, not everything is connected just because he's been there. But they do some good things. And I think stylistically, talking about like kind of, Joe Tryon is now in Cleveland. But when you put the whole package together, I think that's where you get excited because Tampa Bay's defense as a whole was outstanding. And when they put the whole package together, including the defensive line, it was such a vital part of what it looked like. So even though, not everybody came together developmental wise on the defensive line, they did have some dudes that played well together. Like they were very smart up front. Those defensive linemen were super intelligent, man. I mean, they did a lot of things in coverage. They were shutting down our screen. Their defensive linemen were taking away our screens. It was insane. They were athletic. They were very versatile for they move all around. And they were all physical, right? They had some physical edge rushers that on the interior, they had a lot of juice. And they really had a good counteracting balance when they added Kancey to Vita Vea. So they had a really good system. They had a very good system put together. Wizards fall the 5th pick, named them the Street Performers. Oh, that's crazy. That's unnecessary. That's an unnecessary comment, for being honest. That wasn't even necessary, bro. That's crazy. You think the Gibbs and Monty split back this year? Oh, in a split back, like a formation? Man, a few times, I'm sure. Like I'm trying to think. I don't remember top of my mind if I ever saw John Morton do that. I don't know if John Morton ever saw him do that, but I think it's crazy to not think those two would be on the field at the same time together in some sense. Like they were last year a little bit. I think Gibbs' expansion in the pass game makes that more and more make sense because Monty's so good in pass pro. They're really both really good in pass pro, but Monty's exceptional there, and he does a lot underneath. Like when you have two guys that can both pass catch, Gibbs opens up a much more diverse route tree, but Monty catches everything, and they both pass pro their block up their butts off. Like when you got that, it's hard to not visualize them both being on the field together, and sometimes that comes into a split back formation. But specifically, like we've even seen at times they weren't split back, right? Where you put Gibbs at receiver and he'd run a jet motion, and then Monty was in the backfield, and we can hand it to him. We can hand it to this guy, and then maybe we can run a double screen, right? So we can run the screen to Monty. We could fake it over to Gibbs when he's running the jet. We can flip it back to Monty. Like they'll be on the field together. You know what I mean? So like I think you got that dudes that are that talented. They have to see the field just because it's kind of one of those things where like let's get our best 11 out there, and occasionally our best 11 is him. Vision or best 11 is those two together. I just always remember hearing like and who actually said this was David Shaw. David Shaw said this a long time ago. He was like, this is where I got it from. So this is interesting because now David Shaw is here. He always would say, or not always would say, but he said, and I remember on a podcast or something I was listening to, and he said, if you have your offense, and I said, name your best, what was it? I think it was name your best 5 weapons. And he said, name your best 5 weapons, rank your best 5 weapons, and that's the personnel you play. Like, that's the majority of personnel you have to play. So if you rank your best 5, St. Brown 1, I'd put Gibbs at 2. I think I put Gibbs at 2. It'd be Laporta or JMO. I'm going to throw Laporta at 3. See, like, and some may make the case that Monty's in there. Like, JMO versus Monty. I'm going to throw Laporta at 3. Monty at 4, JMO 5, like something like that. And if that's the case, that means you're running 21. What is that? 2 running backs, 2. No, it's 2 running backs, 2 receivers, 1 tight end. That's 21 personnel. So that means like, hey, that's your best 11. 21 personnel is your best 11. You should run some 21 personnel. Like that has to happen. So I remember David Shaw saying that. And if that's how they outlook on it, maybe they have a different ranking. But if that's, that'll get those guys most on the field together. Do you agree the mass amount of Lions fans who say opposite edge is lacking? No. It's lacking if we're hurt. Like, it's not if we're healthy. No. If we're healthy, I love our front. If we're healthy, I think we have, dude, I think our DNs are nasty if we're healthy. If we're injured, well, then maybe, then we'll see. When does actual training camp start? I think it starts like middle of July. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up. I think it's middle of July. early July, middle July, somewhere in that range. Because I'm gonna go back to the workouts here. It's rookie minicamp was yesterday ended. Next program is May 28th. So the next program is end of May. That's OTA workouts. And then mandatory minicamp is middle of June. So I think it's like beginning of July, middle of July, somewhere in there. Right? Because it runs through like the beginning of the preseason. So I think it's like middle of July. When does the Hall of Fame game affect that? How does I think it definitely does. Yeah, no, I think it definitely does. They'll have to get ready faster, I guess, for the game. But the difference is it's not like they're losing a week, right? They're actually getting a game. So I think it's a big positive because we'll get to see our guys more, which is really good. But I would assume, yeah, it's going to affect scheduling. It's definitely going to affect scheduling. The positive is it's not that far, so I mean they could drive there. I don't know why I looked that up. Hall of Fame game. When is that? Hall of Fame game is July 31st. So yeah, that'll be like probably 2.5 weeks in the preseason or training camp, somewhere in there, 2 to 3 weeks in the preseason. That's probably where it would be. So that'll be quick, man. That'll be quick. It'll look messy. I'll tell you that. It's probably going to look horrible. That's very. At least we got a veteran quarterback that will play, but it could look pretty ugly. I put Gibson motion in slot. Yeah, dude, I love when they would do that. The guy's crazy. Does Frank Sewell? Oh, you name it line. Okay, my bad. Outside, you're supposed to not name offensive lineman or the quarterback. You only can name your weapons. So you got to rank your top 5 weapons, excluding offensive line and quarterback, because that decides personnel packages. Unless your best player was your 6th offensive lineman, then I guess you would just always run jumbo. But no one does that. So I should have explained that. So no joint camp this year. I don't know. Have we got it? Probably not. Probably not. We don't. I guess we don't really need it. I didn't hear anything about it. Tesla could have the greatest wide receiver of all time. Not even kidding. He has. Who's the greatest wide receiver of all time? Who is that? He might be, dude. It'd be amazing. Does this mean they have more time to practice? I don't think so. But that's a really good question. They might. It would make sense the NFL would give them a little bit. Maybe they would start them earlier. If they gave them like a week. Let me look it up. Maybe they'll give them like an extra week. So mid to late July is usually when it starts. With teams reporting to full roster. Yeah. It doesn't say anything on here like that. And it says last year was July 15th. So you'd have 16 days. And they don't practice on all those days. You'd have like a little bit less than 2 weeks probably to practice before. That's fast. That's fast, bro. That's fast. Well, it'll be very simple. I'll tell you that. If they don't give them extra time in terms of when they start, it'll be very, very simplified. Sewell's a weapon. Put him in the backfield too. This is true. You could do that. Jordy Nelson. Oh, that's true. Yeah, Jordy Nelson probably is. I don't like Jordy Nelson though. We don't talk about Jordy Nelson. Jordy Nelson, Wes Welker, Julian Edelman. Julian Edelman's better than Welker, right? Like that's is that agreed upon? Is that not? I don't know. Wes Welker, like a lot of Wes Welker I remember was like late Patriots, Broncos. Jordy Nelson, he did cook though. Let me see. What was his numbers looking like? It's good. Y'all had the names ready too. You guys were like fired up for that question. Let me see. Here we go. Jordy Nelson. Oh yeah. He had he had 4 seasons over 1,200 yards. Now those were the only seasons over 1,000, but he did have 4 seasons over 1,200 yards. So, in a season with 14 touchdowns. Yeah. That guy, 14, 13, 15. All right, yeah, Jordy Nelson was to go. Jordy Nelson was probably the best. Julian Edelman. Julian Edelman's a dog. His story is great. That's why I like Julian Edelman. Plus, I remember Edelman a lot better. Edelman had 3 seasons with 1,000 yards. One was close. He had one close one. And then Wes Welker feels like he cooked early. I just wonder. So, he started in 04. Oh, yeah, Wes Welker had some dog seasons in there. Denver didn't do much. See, that's why I have a bad memory of Wes Welker, because Denver, production-wise, wasn't that much. But before that, he had a 3-year span with 1,000 yards and 2. Yeah. Oh, man. That dude was super efficient. He had, 5 seasons over 100 receptions? Yo, Wes Welker got a case, bro. Wes Welker might be the GOAT. I don't know. It might be Wes Welker. I'll take Wes Welker. Preseason Vaki gonna have 1,000 yards rushing. Okay. Cooper Kupp. Oh, of course. Cooper Kupp's the GOAT. What are we talking about? How do we forget about Cooper Kupp, man? Yeah. Yeah, that's the answer. We just found the answer. Good job, Charles. Carl just we talking about slot. No, we were just talking about they're talking about white receivers that like the GOAT white receiver. It's gotta be but Cooper Kupp only really has 1 year like that though. I don't know, bro. They're the same player. Man, I mean, Kupp's easy for me because I've seen all of Cooper Kupp. But based on the numbers, I think it's Nelson and Welker, and then Edelman, and then probably Kupp. Steve Largent. That's who I was thinking of. The Seahawks receiver, Steve Largent. Is that the Seahawks receiver? Yeah, he was a Hall of Famer too. Steve Largent might be the GOAT, bro. Hey, yo, no, it's Steve Largent, bro. That's crazy. Especially in these years, in the 80s. In the 80s, Steve Largent was going crazy. Nah, Steve Largent was the GOAT. My bad. Listen to these numbers. 78. Look at these numbers, bro. This dude had like 7 seasons over 1,000 yards. Look at this guy. Steve Largent was him, man. Who's this guy?
First one is
all right, buddy. Get off the screen. Look at this. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He had 8 1,000-yard seasons. Oh my goodness. Now he did go. He went bananas in the Super Bowl year. Oh, yeah, the Triple Crown year, man. He almost had 2,000 yards. But this is top notch, especially in this era. Because he's not even like racking receptions like that. Like he never had 80 receptions in a year. Oh yeah, he counts as the GOAT for me right there. Steve Largent. At 5'11". 5'11", dude was cooking. 4th round pick from the Oilers. Okay. There you go. Now we know. This was good. This is a good exercise. So can wait. Can you're no this but I'm trying to think though, like who's they were all small. 6 foot off, Tesla big. They were. Cubs pretty big. Cubs big. Cubs 6'2". Cubs 6'2", 6'3". So the game the game the challenge is can Isaac Tesla be better than Steve Largent? Because Steve Largent looked like he was taking the top off. This dude was taking the top off with his numbers. He wasn't 120 receptions. This dude was 70 and 1,000 yards. He was putting up monster numbers. Let me spoil the NBA draft for you, please. Wait, I was trying to find it. No. I'm gonna look it up. Oh my goodness. Ah man, did they already? Hold up. Did they already announce it? Okay, I'm gonna check. Okay, they haven't done it yet. All right, 5 to 14 is locked in. Do we end up with 6? No shot, brother. Do we have 2 picks? I thought we only had 1. This is crazy. The Mavericks? How did No, bro. This is crazy. We got pick 6, dog. Yo, we won like 12 games, bro. All right. We didn't need him. He ain't that good anyway. Bro. That's reality. He ain't that good. No, that's how did the Mavericks get the 1 pick? What were their odds? Like they couldn't. They had to barely just be in there unless they got it from somebody else. Because they weren't they a play-in team? They lost in the play-in game, right? Oh my goodness. No, you did say that. Oh my goodness, bro. No, that's crazy. That's crazy. Oh my goodness. Now there's some dogs at 6 though. Y'all just don't know. We're gonna get the value of the draft. There's some dogs chilling at number 6. Y'all just don't know. That's crazy. Mavericks got the 1 pick though. I'm sorry, y'all. This is off topic. I'm not like, what were their odds? We got Casey and Tesla, future white goat. We should definitely win it this year. Okay. If you combine every division to form a team, who'd be the best? I'd say AFC North. Combine every division, form a team. The North would be weird though, because who would be your quarterback? Burrow? I take Burrow, but it'd be loaded. Oh, that's a really deep question. I have no idea on top of my head. I have no idea. So the Pistons got the 2 pick. Spurs, 76ers, Hornets round out. Oh no, okay. I was like, how did they get the 2 pick? Okay. So Spurs, Mavericks 1, Spurs 2, Sixers 3, Hornets 4. That's crazy. That's crazy work. Is now Kirby doing wonders at receiver drips? Pistons had the worst record of all time. Still makes Victor. Hey, but they were good this year. You know, they made it work. They made it work. Bro over Lamar is kind of crazy. Shoot. Not for me, bro. Burrow's crazy. Burrow's built different. I gotta be honest. Lamar's built different too, but Burrow's crazy. Like every time you watch Bengals, I feel like they might win. Like I don't know. They're both great. They're both great. Receiver drills says Coach Gump, Kirby at receiver. Who is Coach Gump? I don't know who you're talking about. Who is Coach Gump? I've seen that like 3 times. Who is Coach Gump, bro? I don't know who you're talking about. And we'll end on that. We'll end on figure out who the heck Coach Gump is. Before Wednesday, okay, yeah. So Wednesday, yeah, I think we're playing the Chargers. We're playing the Chargers. Chargers end of July. I think it's like July 31st or something is the Hall of Fame game. Because then there's no one else is playing that week. So yeah, Wednesday, we're reacting to the schedule release. Tomorrow, maybe a Casey Rodgers video, maybe a Nate Lynn video, maybe a draft pick, something. We'll have something, I'm sure. Bro could have won the MVP. Could have. That'd been nuts. Could have though. That's how good it was. I'm Coach Gump. Oh, you're Coach Gump. Oh, okay, got you. So you're saying receiver drills says me, Kirby at receiver. Oh, got you. So you're saying they're gonna put Kirby at receiver. That dude could play receiver. He could play. He could be like Travis Hunter. That guy. I feel like if there was a guy, I'd bet that like from ball skills that could play both ways. I wouldn't bet against Kirby Joseph, bro. That dude can snag the ball. Like I'd feel comfortable throwing him passes. I think he would pull it down like Hunter does. Do a video on the Wizards. No, this is crazy. This is an unnecessary comment. Oh, man, I'm a little disappointed, man. Like I'm actually really disappointed. I thought for sure we were getting 1 pick. I didn't even want to like read nothing. I just knew we were gonna get the 1 pick, bro. We're gonna be good anyway. It ain't that important. You think Kirby Joseph gets more than 10 picks next year? Yes. Yes. He's that good. He's that good. Burrow got to the Super Bowl getting sacked 100 times. Isn't that nuts? Dan Jackson video. We do have to do a Dan Jackson video. It seems like, all right, y'all vote, man. Y'all vote. Do you guys want a draft video or do you guys want Casey Rodgers next? I can't guarantee it, but let me know. Another draft prospect or Casey Rodgers or Avonte Maddox, because that one is something I'm looking into here. I've started doing that one. You don't see them at practice now doing drills at practice now, doing the drills now. Why do you like the Wizards, Casey? That we pay Kirby. Me too. I'm glad they got that done, man. Lock that in. It's a weird deal. If you haven't seen that live stream, the audio was trash in that live stream, so I apologize. We did I don't know why I never switched my mic correctly and it was garbage, but it's still worth checking out. Even if you just look at the graphics I throw up, I would check out that short little live stream I did for Kirby Joseph. Brian Branch or Buda Baker, just curious. No, I take Branch. I love Buda Baker though. I would have traded for Buda Baker at one point. Like I'd still wouldn't be mad if they made a trade for him. I love Buda Baker, but I'll take Branch. Because especially with where he's at age wise, and I'll put him in a slot and feel real comfy with it. The way we structure Kirby's contract might be able to keep everyone to get to. Oh yeah, that's that's the one they did like that. They really followed the Philly program doing that one, but they're trying to, man. I think they're gonna pull it off. So okay, Casey Rodgers video, got you. Okay. We'll do that. That's what we'll do. That's what we'll do. I'm gonna hacked. Brian Brad, I see you, Silver Surfer. Good to see you in here, man. No, yeah, no. So for basketball wise, I don't really follow a team. I mean, I follow teams because I follow the players that are on the teams. So I'm not really like I wasn't like since day one. Like I grew up a Wizards fan. Like no, I just follow players. So when the player that goes to that team, players that I like go to a certain team, I just follow that team. That's how it's always really been for me. I've never really like locked into like one team unless there's a player that I like there. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now. It's like so Wizards are unfortunately my team right now. But we're with it, man. We got the jersey and everything. Like we're gonna be good. We're gonna be good. We got some young dudes over there. I'm bought in. I like watching them play. I like how they play together. I just don't know why we didn't keep Ryan Batch at safety when if he came back. We put him back in the slot. Yeah, well Rakestraw was hurt, so we didn't really have like a great slot option, if I remember right. Like we didn't really we were trying to figure out who would be the best to get on the field. And I think they felt that putting him on the field with Iffy was better than putting would have been like a Meek in the slot and Vildor at corner, like something like that. Like I think they felt like that'd be better because Meek was healthy, maybe, but I don't, or not a Meek, Ennis, but I don't think Ennis Rakestraw was healthy. So I think it kind of forced their hand a little bit. Kirby is doing receiver drills now, Coach Gump. Got you. Brian Branch play anywhere if he can. Yeah, I couldn't put Iffy in the slot. Now, if he did do a good job at corner, I was thinking about that yesterday. He did do a good job at corner the few snaps that he played there. When Iffy came back. Yeah, and Iffy always needed to work on man, but I loved Iffy. I loved watching that dude. That dude was good. That dude was good. And look, Branch wasn't great at slot last year when he played slot. He wasn't as good as he was year one. But this year, you just dominate safety and leave him there. Why don't they just keep him at safety? Keep lining. Yeah, I mean that's what it was, right? It was getting your best on the field, kind of like we're talking about an offense. So when injuries came up, they just said, okay, Iffy and Branch at slot is better than Branch at safety, Iffy on the bench, and Kendall Vildor out wide, right? Like that was the best. That was the best unit they could put together. So they were just dealing with injuries, moving guys around. I think they wanted to leave Branch at safety, but because of injuries, it was just like if he makes us better at that spot than it would someone else at cornerback. And I think they were right for that. Like I don't think that was a bad call. But anyway, I'm gonna leave it there, man. I appreciate y'all joining. Wizards still gonna be great. We're fine. I will see you guys at latest Wednesday live stream. We'll be back for a live stream. But before that, we'll probably have something that comes out tomorrow. We did do all the players that tried out. I know that only a couple of them have signed, or really only one of the rookies signed, and that was Luke Deal. But he's in that video if you want to check it out. There's clips there. Other than that, we'll have to just kind of wait and see. If you still want to watch it, feel free. And this morning we reacted to the highlights, and I think everybody we reacted to is still on this team, except for Caden. We did look at Caden, but he's not on the team anymore. But that's worth checking out as well. And if that does well, we'll continue to do those. We're just kind of see how it goes. The offseason does well in terms of me reacting to highlights. I'll keep doing those. We got Casey chat. We're winning it all next year. Hey, that's what I'm talking about, baby. All right, ego business. All right, I see you. All right, we out of here, man. I gotta go be sad. This 6 pick. That's crazy.